Welcome to Edinburgh. Edinburgh Castle. Edinburgh's oldest building, St Margaret Chapel, built in 1130, is Edinburgh's oldest building. Edinburgh Castle is the most seized upon castle in the whole of Europe. It's been seized upon 24 times, mostly due to centuries of fighting with the English. And if you look at this wall here, I hope you're enjoying that squirrel. This is called the Flodden Wall. This was built after 1513 in one of Scotland's worst ever moves. Up to 42,000 troops assembled and invaded England on behalf of the French due to the old alliance between France and Scotland. It was probably Scotland's worst ever military decision. King James IV of Scotland was killed, most of the nobility, and up to a third of the troops. At first, the people of Edinburgh refused to believe it. They refused to believe the king had died. He was the last king to be killed in battle. So Edinburgh responded by building a wall named after the battle itself, Flodden. And Edinburgh remained a walled city for 250 years, until the rich decanted to the Georgian Newtown in 1767. So that was King James IV. Here's Alan, our tour guide for Invisible City. Say hello, Alan.
Hello everyone.
How are you doing today?
Great.
Great. So we've heard a little bit about King James IV there making a massive military blunder, Alan. Scotland is famous for lots of kings and queens. Who is your favourite king and queen as well?
King David I and Mary Queen of Scots.
King David I, he was a very important king. He created boroughs, he gave Edinburgh, made Edinburgh a borough. He built the chapel, St Margaret's Chapel, in 1130 on behalf of his mother, Queen Margaret. Saint Margaret, Scotland's only royal saint. And why is Mary Queen of Scots your favourite queen, Alan? She's also my favourite queen as well.
Because she brought French to Scotland.
She continued with the French as well, didn't she? The old alliance, Mary Queen of Scots did not sign off the old alliance. Scotland became a Protestant country in 1560. But Mary Queen of Scots did not sign it off. So anyone born before 1907 or thereabouts can actually apply for a French passport, because you could get dual nationality. And this is Greyfriars Kirk, the first Protestant church built in Scotland, opened on Christmas Day in 1620. Welcome to the Royal Mile of Edinburgh. And look at this building here. It's called Gladstone's Land. And there's been a shop on this site since 1501. But this building is actually from around about 1545. A lot of the old town was demolished at the end of the 19th century, and Edinburgh became a walled city after the Battle of Flodden. And it stayed like that until 1767. Most of the old town was demolished because the buildings fell into a state of disrepair. But this building has got lots of historical value, so this building was saved. Gladstone's Land. And this is the Royal Mile of Edinburgh. But in Scotland, we like to do things different. So this mile is longer than an English mile by around about 125 yards. There's lots of famous pubs and bars and closes. There's little lanes coming off called closes. And there comes from enclosure, because Edinburgh was a walled city and the houses were called enclosures. on the statue is a leading light during the Scottish Enlightenment period, when Scotland invented the modern world. His name is David Hume. Unfortunately, like a lot of people in this time, they held what we would consider today as having racist views. We're going to go down and visit St Giles Cathedral. He is the patron saint of Edinburgh. It's called St Giles Cathedral, and there's been a church on this site since 1124, but possibly even older. But 1124. Although it should not really be a cathedral, because cathedrals are supposed to have bishops, and the Scottish Presbyterians don't have bishops. Isn't it beautiful? And this is called Parliament Square. And this was the old Parliament of Scotland before Scotland and England joined to create Britain in 1707. And it's believed to have been here where they built the world's first high-rise flats here. They built houses here in the 15th century that were 14 stories high, 130 feet. The world's tallest buildings at the time. Can you imagine how scary that would be? And this is the French consulate here. Isn't it a stunning looking building? And you can tell by the architecture that this was built after the old town was demolished, because the architecture is very similar to the Georgian new town. This chap here is James Braidwood, who in 1824 set up the world's first fire brigade here in Edinburgh. Edinburgh suffered from 2 catastrophic fires, and so James Braidwood was appointed by the local authorities to tackle all the fire problems here in Edinburgh. He then went down to London to set up the London Fire Brigade. And guess how James Braidwood died? In a fire in 1861. This is a statue, not of a Roman emperor, but of King Charles II, whom some people believe was a bit of a tyrant. And this is Britain's oldest lead statue. Scotland's national animal is the unicorn. We are a nation of hairy-bummed, kilted warriors. William Wallace, Robert the Bruce, John de Graham, the Wolf of Badenoch, and so on. Imagine them with their pet unicorn. Of course, the enemy of the unicorn is the lion. And the lion is the national animal of England. Here we have John Knox, his house. It's believed that John Knox might have stayed here in the middle of the 16th century. There's no actual evidence that he did stay here, and he was the leader of the Protestant Reformation in 1560. However, because of the connection between John Knox and this house here, these are actually 2 of Edinburgh's oldest buildings outside the castle. This one here is called Mowbray House. Quite higgledy-piggledy, isn't it? And this one here is John Knox House. It's now a museum. It's only £6 to get in. It used to be the home of Mary Queen of Scots' jeweller as well, who got executed actually. When Mary Queen of Scots was forced to abdicate to England, her supporters held Edinburgh Castle for 2 years, and so John Morrison was executed for his role. Here we have the burial location of Scotland's most miserable man, the leader of the Protestant Reformation in 1560, John Knox. He died in 1572, buried in car park space 23 of the car park outside St Giles Cathedral. This is a bar called the Canon's Gate, and you see how gate is spelled G-A-I-T? And that means street or road or thoroughfare. And so this was the street that led to the canons in the Abbey of Holyrood, down at the bottom of the Royal Mile. And here we are, the Canons Gate, the road that leads to the canons in the Abbey here. It's called Holyrood. It's behind the palace here. It's actually ruined. It was destroyed partially by the English in the Rough Wound period in 1544 to 1547, when Henry VIII of Scotland, of England, launched war on Scotland. Do you see the bars on the window there? That is to keep the politicians from escaping, because this is the Scottish Parliament. Scotland is not yet an independent country. We joined with England in 1707 to create Britain, but we do have devolution and a parliament. Nicola Sturgeon is the most powerful person in Scotland, and Scotland was the first country in the world to eradicate period poverty. That's right, Scotland was the first country in the world to eradicate period products. How incredible is that? Nicola Sturgeon gave up her career as a solicitor to campaign for nuclear disarmament. She realised the only way we can get rid of nuclear weapons is for Scotland to become an independent country. So she's now risen to all the way to the top of the SNP and is the First Minister of Scotland. You can go and visit it for free.